Okay, well, I've kicked off then. Recording's on. It's working. Ready to go.
Yay! Okay. So, welcome. Oh, hold on. I need to check the number of people subscribed to us so that I can greet them appropriately.
I think it's
Hello
91.
to all 91. Yes,
Yeah.
to all 91 of you beautiful subscribers. Today, with episode 7 of the Truckcast, we will be addressing liberalism, Marxist tactics, question mark, conservationism, plus European versus British animals. Uh, New guest. Hello, Wes.
Hello.
The nationalism question and where did it all go wrong? We might not get through all these topics today. We
We
might save
definitely
some of
won't.
this for. Oh yes, how much time do we have, Englander?
Well, we've got about an hour and a half. I don't
All
know.
right then.
I'll probably go on for longer.
All right then. Well, if we get this wrapped up in an hour, we can enjoy Squid Game afterwards. So
Yeah,
let's try and keep
possibly.
it down to 1 hour. All right, in which case I guess we'll go on for like 10-minute sections to try and get through as much of this as possible.
Yep.
Although, before we do anything, of course, I'll have both of my beautiful co-hosts introduce themselves. Englander, go.
Hello. I am Englander. I've been with Lobster for about the past 5 episodes or so.
It's the
Subscribe to
beginning,
the
I
channel.
believe.
That's it.
Well, not the channel. For the past month or so on the channel, yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
And Wes, how about you introduce yourself? I don't believe anyone on my channel has met you before.
Wes Wyleven, friendly neighborhood Southerner. Um, I believe in very interesting things, and
Don't worry, so do we.
Yep.
well, had an interesting couple years, and think
Haven't we
that's
all?
one of the reasons why people enjoy hanging out with me, and just general nice person, and less I don't want to be, but hey, and yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
don't poke the bear.
curious,
We get it.
very curious about what this is, and kind of here to
Oh,
hang.
thanks. Yes. So I guess we'll get into the introduction. Of course, I'm the one who sort of started the whole Dawnshire project, but Englander, since I suspect you might be able to better put it to words.
Well, I could probably better put it into writing. I think,
Ah,
seeing as you're the creator, I think you should probably be the one to talk about it.
yes, all right. So basically, I guess we ought to start from the beginning. The whole Dawnshire project stuff basically just started after several weeks of basically just me paying attention to like dissident right wing YouTube, and everything just seemed a bit sad. And I was just like, you know what? I kind of just want to abandon modernity, like what's it, modernity in general, and just because it's a bit sad. The Amish were right about several things, if certainly not everything, but several things at least.
I was gonna
And
say they were kind of right about zippers and screws, so
yeah. Anyway,
wrong, wrong. They were wrong about zippers.
wrong about zippers and screws. Yes. Anyway, yeah, I'm not that reactionary yet.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so basically, I was just like, you know what? I want to just do crowdfunding, basically, just to make like a traditionalist community for people who think vaguely similar to the way that I do, who basically just want to have the farm and the goats or whatever out in the woods, out in the mountains, somewhere way off, and just be left alone by the outside world, and like maybe have like a summer solstice party every once in a while.
Yeah, no. The beautiful part about the American experiment is that it allows for things like that.
Yes. Oh, it's not exactly impossible to find independent communities like the Amish and the Mennonites in Europe. I believe the Mennonites actually are still around in Russia, but it's not nearly as common as it is in America.
No, believe it or not, there are more Mennonites in Russia than there are in the United States.
Yeah,
Well,
so I've heard
we
that
weren't
once or
planning
twice.
for Dawnshire to be an American centric thing. It's just kind of wherever's preferable, really.
Yeah, it's just that I live in America and American like law, like basically it's just a little bit convenient to do it in America, but like Russia was better about freedom of religion. I would probably have Russia more at the forefront of my mind.
What are you talking about? Russia's just fine. It was just that weird. It was just that unfortunate patch of
I'm talking about modern Russian history, things that have happened in the past 10 years.
What was that?
Uh,
That
they're not the worst. They're better than China, I must say. My church, I'm LDS, Mormon. My church still has, plenty of churches and temples and gathering places in Russia, but we aren't allowed to openly evangelize anymore, and I am slightly bitter about that. Perhaps more so than I should be.
what was that religious community in Russia that had its leader arrested and thrown into jail recently?
Is it the Old Believers?
Well, I think it was this
No,
guy who
because the Old
proclaimed himself
Believers live in Alaska
Jesus.
now.
Does this ring a bell to
Do you have
anyone?
any idea how little that narrows it down? That's the main. That is. Do you have any idea how ordinary that is
Yeah,
for cults,
well, I
especially
think
in
it was.
Russia?
I don't know if anyone would want any listeners would want to put into the comments who they are, but they were kind of this group that were this vegan kind of. They set up their own kind of little
Oh, of
community,
course.
and his leader proclaimed himself Jesus, and he got
oh
himself
god.
arrested by the Russian authorities. Um,
Yeah.
Well,
Wes, yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, what was popular in Russia back in the '90s? You ever heard of Shinrikyo?
oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe heard of him. Don't know what it is.
Yeah, Shinrikyo was a fanatic religious cult that started in Japan and
Oh,
spread over to Russia.
right. I have.
Really, really big.
That was those were the ones that were doing like gas bomb terrorism on the
It
Japanese trains, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was their big thing. But
Yeah.
they were big into like crystal worshiping, new age medicine. They were big on analyzing your spiritual aura energy
I
and
mean, the religion was literally founded by a long-haired,
blind.
blind acupuncturist, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. One of the things that they were famous for was making Reikiism famous. Well, giving it another wave of fame.
Yeah,
Which
because it probably in the yeah.
and one of my favorite things about Reikism is it was 100% debunked by a 12-year-old girl.
Oh my.
I love that. Reikism is therapy, physical therapy done to your body by lack of touch, where the only thing that you use are your auras, and you
What
press
the
your
heck?
aura against the other person, and you project your aura out via your hands. And the 12
Now
year
that
old girl simply
does
simply
sound like the most silly thing in the world.
yeah, the 12-year-old girl simply cut two holes in one of those tri-folding project boards, told the
Uh-huh.
people to stick their hands out, and then would put her hand right over the other person's hand and said, if you could project your aura and feel mine, what hand is my hand over?
Uh-huh.
It's just like debunking the Ouija board. It's one of the most
Yeah.
easiest things to do.
Yeah.
Well, we just went off topic there.
Apologies.
It was
No,
a fun
it's good.
tangent.
No,
It was
it's
a
good.
fun tangent. Thank you, Wes.
Well,
You are making this podcast very interesting. Thank
well,
you.
one of the things you'll learn about me real fast, Englander, is I am a bed. I am a wonderful bed of useless knowledge, and I will get you off topic real fast. So
Well,
I
that's
apologize.
good. That's pretty much what we've been doing every single episode in the Truckcast. So, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's literally just like the like a low rent version of the Joe Rogan experience. It's very spastic.
Oh boy, N words incoming. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yes, it is YouTube. We do have to keep it YouTube friendly.
Yeah, no,
I believe that the thing that AA and fam like to say is quashe. Quashe's incoming.
yeah. I will be more than happy to be the resident Alex Jones guest.
Oh, maybe. I hope that you get to be a repeating guest. Yes. Anyways, as I was saying, sort of like what Dawnshire is sort of meant to be is like, originally it was just like I want to do crowdfunding stuff. Then I was like, wait a minute. I probably ought to, before I start a GoFundMe or anything, I probably ought to get an internet presence. And then I was like, wait a minute. I can't get any followers unless I have like propaganda and memes, etc. So I was like, wait a minute, I can't have any of that unless I have an ideology. So basically, what me and Englander have been doing for the past several weeks, or has it become months?
I think it must have been about a month now. I think almost a month.
For the past month or so, yeah. Is basically just talking about what is the ideology of Dawnshire, how would we want to govern ourselves. Oh, constitutionalism. That's another thing that save that for a later podcast.
Well, we
I suppose.
devoted an entire stream to that with Paladin, didn't we? That was episode 2, I think.
Yes, I believe that we did. Yes, except that we only got through like half of it because we got bogged down in the conversation about was it warrants?
So
We got bogged down in
I,
a lot of things. Yeah.
yeah. So I just want to let you guys. I figure if you guys don't mind, I will tell you guys a little bit about me and
Go ahead.
and what I believe in, and then
Go ahead.
I think maybe
please
through
do.
that we can start having a discussion.
Go ahead, lad.
I am what my European friends very lovingly call aggressively American.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay.
I
Well, you
wrote
do live in Texas. Not exactly shocking.
Seattle, actually.
Oh, Seattle. Are you from Texas? What is it?
No, I'm from Tampa, Florida. I'm
My
from
goodness, who did I get you confused with? There are so many Southerners in the
probably
cabal.
lots of folks. So many people moved to Tampa or moved to Texas recently. I don't blame you in the least. I unfortunately am still in the suburbs of Seattle. I did move out of the city, but I'm what is known as aggressively American. I wrote multiple papers in college based on what I call Heinleinian socioeconomics or the Heinleinian theory,
Yeah.
I believe that the power is within that the power comes from the bottom and I believe it is the
So
responsibility.
far as the bottom is well armed, that's true.
Yes, well that's kind of the point.
Authority comes from power, and power is yeah.
Well, violence is the supreme authority upon which all other authority is.
Yes. And in America, the bottom is very well suited to violence, and therefore in America, the bottom has a bit of power.
Well, we used to be, and that's one of the problems.
More so than any other Western world, we still do.
Yes,
Don't
Thomas
forget
Jefferson.
our single shot shotguns in Britain. That's owned by about 1/100th of the population. That will show
Yeah.
them.
Thomas Jefferson said that vigilance is the eternal price that we pay for liberty, and unfortunately, we haven't been very vigilant lately. And
I don't know that we have been for nearly 100 years.
that is a core problem that a lot of people seem to have, which is the system is broken, the system is fucked. Apologies. The system is ruined. We need to tear it all down and start back up again. No, we just need vigilance. It is the responsibility of every American citizen to be well informed about their political decisions. And unfortunately, we have not been doing that.
Yes.
So I do my best to spread that information where I can.
Yes, and I rather do hope that you are right, because if you're not, that kind of means that America's going to fall apart, and that would be a severely uncomfortable experience for everyone involved.
Well, our Lord and Savior Yuri Bezmenov warned us about this a long time ago, and
Yes.
and unfortunately we didn't listen then. But he has been getting a second wind, unfortunately, after his passing. But he did warn us, and he did release multiple videos with lectures, and we can
Mm.
look back and we can analyze and we can extrapolate from what he said.
Yes.
Well,
I'm just afraid that it's too late. I will not say that I am a wise man, therefore I cannot say that I am certain. But it seems to me, for all of my ignorance, that maybe it's a bit too late to save America.
Well, one of the beautiful things about America is it has like fire gaps inside of its
Yeah.
structure, and it does allow us to potentially. I mean, it's where the our governmental structure is literally formed by people who fought several years against a tyrannical government that
Yeah,
tried to
it's
suppress it.
deliberately fractious in many
Yes.
ways.
And the one of the beautiful things about a bottom up system, about a system that values the individual more than the group, a system that values the people more than the people in power, is that you
Yes.
can burn significant chunks of it down if need be. You can put very large calibered holes in them.
One
If
remembers the ancient Chinese proverb about a few ancient Chinese proverbs about the mandate of heaven and
yeah,
peasant revolts.
yeah,
I think we need
yes.
to. I think we need to bear in mind, though, that America is a very new creation in comparison to most other states in the world. There's we can't go on assuming
That
that it's
depends
going
on
to
how you
last.
define it, because culturally Germany is old, but in terms of like the land that Germany currently controls and the ethnicities living therein, Germany is very new. It's been around. If you count Prussia, it's been around about as long as America. But if you don't count Prussia, it's been around for a much shorter amount of time.
Yeah, well, in
And,
terms of the idea and in the culture of America,
oh
it's a
yeah,
very new creation.
and I would have two answers to that. And one would be we modeled ourselves after the Roman Republic, not the Roman Empire, the
Yeah,
Roman Republic. And while the Roman Republic did fail because of corruption, I
yeah,
again make my argument that the problem there is not with the system, but it was with the corruption that the citizens allowed to infest it. And yes,
again, the
there were
mandate
other,
of heaven, the eternal.
but my other
Things will go bad when people are bad.
And the
yeah,
question is,
my
what
other
will be the
answer would
system that
be
would produce the least amount of corruption? I suppose.
Hold on, Englander. You and I
Sorry,
have
go on.
both been interrupting
Sorry,
Wes.
go
Let's
on.
let him finish.
well, there is no system that involves human that doesn't have corruption. That does not exist. And if you think no, guys, my system will work. Uh, my answer to
Thinking
that
in the
is
wrong way.
the utopia is always one more gulag away, comrade. Like that mentality leads to genocides, and we've
Yes.
had enough genocides the last 100 years. So let's go ahead
Yes.
and work with what we have.
Mm.
And my other answer is yes. The new concept of the United States is a relatively new and a very very experimental thing, but it has also led to some of the most incredible innovations, some of the the most powerful military, the most innovative
Brilliant. We have
I don't mean
lost.
to interrupt you too much, but I
Oh,
think that here's where we get to the interesting meat of the conversation
sorry, I
potentially,
lost. I lost
because
connect. I lost
I think
Wi-Fi.
the contention perhaps with Donshire versus the United States is that we would find it, at least to some degree, we would maybe find it like, is it really true that we want to live with all this modern technology? Have smartphones, for example, perhaps
the
been more of a
beautiful thing
burden than a
is
blessing?
no one is stopping you from not using it.
Yeah.
There may be social pressure, but you are more than welcome to ignore social pressures.
Yeah.
I myself,
Oh yeah.
I myself do not use my cellular phone for any use when it comes to my employment, my work, or anything like that. If they
It's a
want me
good
to
point,
use a
Wes.
smartphone
Yes.
for it, they can pay me to have a smartphone. They can buy a
Mm.
smartphone for me, and they ended up doing that. So now I use a smartphone as a tool for my job. See what things like that. The beautiful thing about the American system is it's voluntary. Everything
Yes.
about it is voluntary. You are free to pursue your form of happiness whenever you want.
Yes. Well, yes, and I suppose that is the thing, as Englander, I hope that me and Wes don't sound too dopey and optimistic for you.
It's
Uh,
a little more. I would take a slightly more pessimistic approach, but I'm at least I'm glad there's an opposing side though. So
yeah. But I would say that Wes is saying something that is mostly true, true enough. But of course, as I guess, and again, Wes, I hope that I don't seem like I'm moving goalposts, grasping at straws. But I would say that through the slothfulness of the American people, if nothing else, we have allowed that to become what you just talked about, to become less true now than it was in the past. Because well, for example, lots of people sort of let the government coerce them into all kinds of lockdowns and mandates and things. And, well, again, the lovely fractious nature of America makes it so that, not every state was affected equally severely. But, um,
Yes,
well,
the states that did not go under lockdown are much more prosperous because of that. Because of
yes,
the mistakes of other states, and even some of the mistakes of the federal government. The states that did not comply are now more prosperous. And yes, a lot of those states made that mistake. But again, because of the model of bottom up governance, it allowed the states that were smart enough, that were wise enough to not follow the lockdown system to prosper.
yes, yes. However, just is I do think it is perhaps somewhat fair to point out the fact that it's like the COVID fascism was kind of a real thing, and we perhaps we
Is
should take the past 2 years. We should take the past 2 years and basically just use it as a nice lesson. Basically, I think
yes, absolutely.
just to make sure that nothing ever happens, nothing like this ever happens again.
And as we move past this, because we are moving past this, the world is slowly being dragged largely against his will,
Yes.
out of lockdownerism, out of
The
fascism.
money effectively the money effectively ran out.
Yes, exactly. and
Inflation is awful.
and
well they
also
can.
they are
Well, it seems
seeing
they can
these
just.
areas,
Sorry.
they are seeing these states, even some nations that never locked down, that never forced their citizens to put diapers on their face, prospering, flourishing, while everyone else is remaining stagnant, and they go, hey, I want that. And that again is one of the beautiful things about the American experiment, which is fanatic individualism, which allows different people to try different things, and the best process works, and everyone else goes with that.
Yes.
Thus you see the success. And when it comes to England, it was, oh God, we messed up so badly, we need to let this go.
Okay,
And
so yeah, speaking of yeah. Oh, and of
go
course
ahead.
the trucker protests. We have the picture there on the
Yes,
in the thing. Yes. Of course, it's let me speaking though of like freedoms and liberties is like that does remind me of a thing. Mm. If AA was watching, I'm sure that he'd have something. The old academic agent, I'm sure that he'd say it's like, you're becoming a bunch of boomer cons. These are blue pills or whatever. But
yeah, I
whatever.
don't follow AA or anything like that.
Eh, I do, but perhaps I take him more seriously than I should.
Well, yeah, I mean, by all means, take whoever you hold in austerity seriously, but also remain skeptical about anything anyone says, even
Yeah,
me,
we're
especially
all
me,
human.
Jesus Christ,
We are all human, you know. It's like none of us three is a god, so
No gods or kings walk the earth, only fellow men.
yes. Let's see. Basically, is just the liberalism conversation. So
Yes.
earlier in on this on the beautiful Dawnshire Discord, you know, it's please feel free, viewers, to request invitations in the comments. Uh, Me and Englander got into a bit of a debate over liberalism. Basically, I've just been getting sort of increasingly annoyed lately how many people on the dissident right seem to have become allergic to anything remotely liberal. You know, and one of the main things that made me realize this was when on just one or two streams ago, or one or two episodes ago, uh, Englander felt the need to disavow Locke, even though Locke is kind of foundational to American conservatism. So, you know, of course, being an American, I took some issue to that.
Well, bear in mind he is English, so I
Uh,
was also disavowing English ideas as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, of course, it's which again, I would also reprimand you for that. It's like, no, don't be such a dirty Frenchman.
I've literally
Nah,
called myself Englander.
how German of you.
Yes. How Carlislean of you.
Oh, don't
how,
compare me to
how
that
how
Scot.
how continental of you.
Yes. All right, let's continue. Right. So basically, as yes. So you know, so then we continue in the conversation is basically I just my the beginning of my defense of liberalism was basically I just figure several important people like, you know, good old Sargon, good old Carl Benjamin still abide by liberalism for reasons that I consider valid, so we maybe shouldn't rule out the whole ideology. And Englander mentioned that he rejects some of the foundations of liberalism. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so I guess it's probably would be best to start to kind of define some of the ideas, but one of the foundational parts of liberalism is this idea that human beings at their core are each kind of rational free agents who are able to best decide what is in their own interests. And I think, um, well, for example, everything we've seen in the past 2 years is entirely contrary to that.
So, what would be your
Yeah.
alternative other than individual rights?
Well, I don't know. That's just
I don't think his alternative would be. I don't think his alternative would be something other than individual rights. I think his alternative would just be maybe as yes. Well, like one thing that we've often considered is it wouldn't necessarily have to be a monarchy, but basically just like forgive me for stuttering, a incredibly strictly constitutional government. Basically just in what's it, that is basically just sort of almost powerless to do anything oppressive.
okay. I just thought of
And it
something
doesn't
to.
have any power.
I just thought of something to respond. Well,
Yes, and
basically,
of course, you know, yeah.
well, one of the key things that we've lost in the past, probably about a century, is some kind of universal religion or transcendent faith as a kind of building block of the institution. That and what that has left is a kind of vacuum for that people are truly, I
Yes.
suppose, individuals, and they decide what is best for them. And as I
Yes,
said,
and that's a
we've seen
valid
the
point,
fruits of that.
Englander.
Oh,
Of course,
that
I would like to go back, of course, and point out that what's it? All the most atheist countries currently in Europe are countries that had official churches in the past. You know, like there used to be a Church of Denmark, there used to be a Church of Norway, there still is a Church of England, you know, etc. You know, the Lutheran Church of Germany, etc. And all of these countries have become majority atheist since then, so it basically just strikes me, I don't think that God is very well pleased with state churches.
well, the problem with that, the issue that you have there, Englander, is is a very valid problem. And in fact, it's a problem that our Lord and Savior Yuri Bezmenov brings up. And there's a reason why that when communist infiltration in any form, collectivist I won't say communist. He used the word communist. I will use the word collectivist. When
Yeah, it's more accurate.
collectivist infiltration begins, when ideological subversion begins, um, the first thing that it attacks is faith. It calls it stupid. It calls it silly. This is a social problem, and you do not solve social problems with legal solutions. All right.
Yes.
If you try to solve social problems with legal solutions, you get tyranny.
Yes, but of course, I would say that this is probably why. Hopefully, I don't sound too much like AA here. But Englander and like something that me and Englander have sort of been working on is basically the idea of like what we might call like the British idea of a monarch, you know, being a creature with like basically just power outside of the state, uh, you know, that basically exists in sort of a cultural role like that, so that you know, like you know, whereas the state would have like an explicitly legal role, you know, and would not be at power to, you know, to
Okay, but that
address any of that social stuff. The monarch being more of basically just a role model.
okay. And what
Uh,
would that what is stopping that person from killing you?
yeah.
Well, the
Well,
fact
of course,
is,
I would just say it's just that the
sorry.
monarch doesn't have the authority to kill people, essentially.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the problem with
Yeah.
a monarch. Number one, history. History has kind of proven the fact that monarchs are
I
a
mean,
bad.
history has proven that democracies are pretty crappy too.
Yes, that's why we have a republic.
It's
Um,
proven that humans in general, I would say, are crap.
no, it's that they are incredibly dynamic creatures, and we need checks and balances in order to minimize tyranny.
Maybe,
And,
maybe. Forgive me if I sound too Calvinist because I don't really like Calvin, but I it strikes me that humans on some level are kind of in a state of ignorance. At least humans seem to be like evil by default, and maybe they got to be taught to do good things.
oh yes, I'm sure you. And I'm not. This isn't an insult to you. When I say you, I mean the proverbial you. And I'm
Huh.
sure you are the one who knows exactly what to do. And it. And again, utopia is only one more gulag away, comrade.
Yeah.
You know,
Again, well,
get
no,
Well, I think he
again,
was
but
just
like the
trying
thing
to.
is, like utopian ideology. I wasn't trying to say that. Yeah. And I don't want to get too angry at you, Wes, because you were being fairly charitable.
yeah.
Um,
The problem with that is you if you don't have consensus in some way, you are going to that route
well,
will
you
open.
can't rule without consensus. Even the monarchs of the past never did.
Well,
Oh yes, they did.
well, can I
Like when they did, you got peasant rebellions
you
again.
can
You know,
you
like
can
let
point
me point out
them.
Chinese history. Let me point out Chinese history, Wes. The Mandate of Heaven. There has been more than one successful peasant revolt in history. When the monarch, you know, superficial or otherwise, did something unpopular.
Look. All I'm saying is, you are more than welcome to try this Hoppian view of how
I've not
democracy
even read Hoppa.
is. Well, you are quoting. You are basically quoting Hoppa, and Hoppa is unfortunately quite cringe. And this whole concept that democracy is
I
a
don't think he's
failure.
cringe. I think he's autistic. Again, I've not read him, but
Yeah,
I've paid
isn't it,
attention
that's
to many
about
people who
90% of
have, and
people on the right, though.
yeah.
uh,
Well, here, allow me to finish. Um, the main problem with this is you are going to see the exact same thing. This whole thing about how democracy is a failure and all this stuff. You are not wrong. That is why we have a republic. And I wholeheartedly reject the neo academic definition of a republic. because now if you look up the definition of a republic, it will say that a republic is any form of governance without a monarch. That is not true. That I wholeheartedly reject that definition. The definition of a republic is people voting for their representatives, and the representatives the uh, vote on things. And I don't know what else to tell you. Like the definition of a woman has changed, and the definition of vaccines have changed as well. So I don't know what to tell you. Like there has been a odd movement in order to redefine basic things lately.
Well, does that
And
not mean the UK is a republic by your definition?
no, because you have a king
But
or a
as you
queen
said,
or
we
what
have
have
representative people vote for representatives. As
true,
if,
but not all of your
Also, if we want to be cynical, the monarch just doesn't really have power.
they they still like like you this is where my personal biases come in, and I understand that I have heard plenty of English people going, oh, but they make their own money, they do their own thing, they have their own
They
investment
kind of do.
themselves.
I'm
Yeah,
not
well, where did
defending
that
the
money
British
come from?
monarchy, so I won't.
Where did that additional
Yeah.
money come from?
It's the Focus G Mini. I think Fractal's just.
Tourism.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really.
You got an Elsa computer.
their own
India,
estates.
probably.
And it's.
But yeah, no,
Well, no, before the estates were privatized, I think he means.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
it came from it came off of scraping the sweat off of the brow of your average person and putting
I'm pretty. I'm
the
pretty sure that historically the average person in England didn't pay taxes. I'm pretty sure that it would have been the landowners, and of course the landowners got rent, but
they got 100, like almost 100% of the we are now devolving into trying to defend
yeah.
feudalism, and let's not go down that road. don't try to
No,
defend
again,
feudalism.
oh
Yeah.
gosh,
Can I go back
I
to
wish Aiden was here. I
Oh,
wish
oh,
Aiden was here.
trust me. Aiden does not want to talk to me anymore because, unfortunately, I feel very, very bad about this, but I almost brought her to tears because
Spurged.
she did not have answers to the questions that I was asking. And when another gentleman named Scrump came in, he proceeded to start shitting all over the floor, and I asked, "Hey, why is this a sickly color of green?" And he had no answers to that. And instead he just laughed at me and left, calling me an idiot.
could I?
I'm sure that you were a good deal less charitable than that. I'm aware of both of them. I don't like Scrump all that much, but I do rather like Aiden.
No, Aiden is a very intelligent woman. It's just unfortunately she is being seduced into this concept of Hoppian utopianism, and it is just
She is literally autistic.
and
No, my point was just we shouldn't be surprised, again, not to cast too much shade at her. Aiden, you're beautiful. I love you. But we shouldn't be surprised that she's attracted to weird ideas.
yeah. Well, I believe that every person is responsible for their own soul, for their own ideology, and if you believe in something, you should defend it, and you should be able to defend it. It's like I'm defending my ideology, my ideology right now.
Can we go back to a previous point that we made about I guess kind of a small defense of Aiden here, about if a if we have a monarch, what stops them from sort of tyrannizing? Basically, I think if we have if you have the wrong kind of person in charge, well, I think what me and Lobster were discussing a lot about is that the fact that Dawnshire would at least initially be a local sort of thing, a local creation, so it would be a very small sort of less than a few thousand amount of people, so they wouldn't really have the
Yeah, like
practicality to be able to tyrannize people.
Like when you know everyone, when you see everyone every day just going about your ordinary daily business,
Sure,
if you piss everyone off, it's not very hard for them to burn down your house.
yeah. Well, that's the problem is what happens when I come by and I'm not part of your community and I want your stuff.
Hmm. Yes.
How
Well, and
how
that
do you
is, of
stop?
course, one
I have
reason why.
a son.
Like,
How do you stop?
one thing that we have been considering is, well, because basically what we were thinking for the defense of Donshire, not to sound too smug or arrogant or anything. Uh, it was basically is just like, well, the obvious thing would just be a militia. It's just
Okay, well,
everybody ought
what if
to be
my
well
group of
trained.
raiders is bigger than your militia?
The what? Sorry.
Defensive warfare is easier than offensive warfare.
No, my point is having a having a larger government that is there in order to regulate small squabbles and having sequentially larger bodies whose job is there to arbitrate problems is a good thing, because when it comes down to it, there is always a bigger fish, always. And if okay, your militia could
No, I guess you are right. I guess I
this
yeah.
always devolves into, oh well, my guys could beat your guy. No, they won't. Eventually you will come across a force that is bigger than
Of course doesn't. But of course doesn't that same problem still exist with like with America as it exists today? It's just that the our fish is so big that like the fish that would eat it is like be ridiculous. Like
you. Well,
what's it
we're
like?
potentially facing that problem with China right now.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe they are the bigger fish. But the problem is violence. Controlled violence is the thing that you need to make sure that you are the master of, because
Mhm.
you want to be able to have the biggest stick and the with the sharpest point, meaning you want to have the best weaponry with the most advanced technology, so that you
Mhm.
can wield it in order to you don't have to use it. That is
Mhm.
the ideal situation that you want.
Mhm.
And you are not going to get that as a small, isolated community, because there will
Yeah.
come a time when someone comes by who is larger, more organized, and better than you. Always.
Mhm.
Which is why these small, isolated
Well, how come the Swiss
in
exist?
the
How
United
come the Swiss were able to? How is it the Swiss have been able to be like neutral in every European war for the
because
past
they're
1,000
incredibly rich
years?
and surrounded by mountains.
Why
They're
can't we just build New Switzerland in Wyoming?
they, they are incredibly rich, surrounded by mountains. Every citizen is armed, and they are surrounded by allies nowadays. Picking a
They
fight,
weren't
even the
historically.
Nazis knew.
Historically,
Like Switzerland is such a absurdly unique case that going,
why
well, what
can't we
about the
build New
Switzerland?
Switzerland in Wyoming though? Why can't we just build the same thing in the Rockies?
Uh,
We've
look,
got mountains here too.
Why would
the
we?
and also the only reason why the Nazis didn't eventually pick a fight with the Swiss is because they didn't conquer the rest of Europe yet. Rest assured, when the day came that Switzerland was completely surrounded by either communist Soviet Union or Nazi forces, rest assured they would have gone for Switzerland yet next.
Uh,
Mark my
my,
word.
my understanding that it wasn't just that. My understanding is that it was also, Switzerland effectively was cooperating with both sides constantly, similar to Sweden,
Well,
and
I
it
mean,
just wasn't
yes,
in anyone's best interest to attack them because it
they
was a
did have
nice
an
neutral
absurd
ground.
amount of money, and the money of both sides. They did have an absurd amount. They have set themselves up as as a neutral economic powerhouse, and that is another reason why. But again, the moment that one side in that war is wiped out, don't kid yourself, the more
Mm,
authoritarian side will take that place over,
mm,
because it's like, we can pick your gold out of the rubble because we have
mm,
bombs that fall from the sky.
But why would the U.S. government be interested in dropping bombs onto a small little
No,
community of a
moral
few
The
force
threat
thousand
here-
isn't
people?
the U.S. government. The threat isn't the U.S. government, Englander. The threat is what comes after.
Yes.
Oh, what do you
exactly.
mean
Because
the
America's not
balkanization?
going to last forever.
And not the U.S. government. I don't want to seem so superior. Western ideology, like the ideology that that values individual freedom and individual rights and autonomy.
That kind of does seem only like America. Europe does not seem to value any of that at all whatsoever.
Well, idealistically, it is based off of the values of Great Britain and British values and things like
Basically, yes. Basically, exclusively British values.
that. But unfortunately, that
To
has
quote,
been highly
yeah.
collectivized as of late.
Again, what's it? To quote Carl Benjamin, America is the only country more English than England.
Yeah, he's not wrong. I like, despite the fact that I like to poo poo on the Brit bongers every once in a while, but yes,
Everyone does.
yeah, no,
Everyone likes to poo poo on the old people every now and again because that's basically what England is. It's basically the motherland.
I very much value British values and British ideologies in the same way that our founding fathers did. Our founding fathers considered themselves British, and they actually considered themselves more British than Britain.
Well, yeah, because literally, yes. Because, and again, Englander, I hope this isn't too much America simpery for you. But like, what's it like? Wasn't it like the Puritans literally believed that like monarchy was like or maybe not monarchy in general, but at least the monarchy that ruled England at the time was like evil foreign French nonsense, and they were going to go build something new and purely Anglo-Saxon in the new world.
Well, they believed
German, but yes.
it was during the reign of Charles the First, who was kind of I guess, much more.
Well, he was Dutch, wasn't he?
No, he was Scottish. Um,
Oh.
so he was a bit more, I guess you could say authoritarian. He implemented a rule without parliament. He ruled. He just sort of ignored a lot of their kind of demands, I suppose, and suppressed Puritan ideology and religious beliefs. So I guess what those
And the
people fled
Puritans
there,
themselves also came large part out of Scotland, so.
and they yeah, well, he was suppressing that area too. So they had no choice but to go over to America.
Yes.
Well, the Puritans.
Actually, a lot of them did settle in. A lot of them did. I think half of them nearly settled in the Netherlands as well, which is why there is still a large Presbyterian congregation in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Yeah. In the end, I think a lot of these problems, these disagreements, can be solved via education. Education in philosophy, education in history.
My opinion, in my opinion, it's not even like the monarchy, democracy, republic debate. It's like no, because humans are freaking monkeys that can screw up any of these systems. In my opinion, the thing that basically determines whether a country will succeed or fail is basically just the mandate of heaven. Just if the majority of people are morally correct, then the country will do fine. But if the majority of people are immoral or what we might say morally corrupt, then the country will fail,
Yes,
regardless of the quality of the leadership and regardless of how that leadership was selected.
and as long as all of those people are represented equally, there is no problem. The
Well,
problem
no, the thing is, they don't even have to be represented if they're not like the people in charge are decent people. They're not going to oppress them. So like, now I don't mean to say like, representation, like again, like in theory, it's like, oh yeah, you ought to have it, whatever. I don't want to poo-poo it, but like, what's it like when the system isn't working? Representation's not going to fix it. And when the system is working, representation is a bit redundant. So what's the point in having it either way?
It's because representation, when properly instituted, helps with vigilance, and vigilance is the constant price we pay for liberty.
Yes, but why couldn't a person say that about any monarchic way of doing things?
Because a monarchy isn't elected. A monarchy is chosen arbitrarily. And a monarchy has more rights than your average person. And
It doesn't have to. That depends on what's in the Constitution. Again, it's like
either way, you have someone who has more power than the average person, and they either didn't earn it or weren't elected into that position.
so.
That
In that case, would you say that a military dictatorship would be appropriate since it's since militaries tend to be meritocratic?
What are you talking about, a dictatorship or a statocracy? A statocracy
I'm
is
not
a
sure
form
how
of
different
governance.
those things are, so let me just say what I have in mind because it's something that I've actually thought of advocating in the past. Is basically just like the military works however it works. People get promoted according to merit, etc., etc. And the person who is at the top of the military is also at the top of politics.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is not everyone is in the military.
Well, again, of course, that just makes me think: should everyone be in the military? Should military service just be mandatory? And like, should there be no civilians? Should the whole country basically just be reserves?
Well, again, then you have the problem of pursuit of happiness and individual rights. You are forcing a person to go into to undergo things that they might inherently wholeheartedly disagree with.
People don't
You're
pursue their
forcing a person.
own happiness though necessarily.
Say that again.
No, Englander, I'm not sure the best point, but go ahead.
Well, I was saying people do not necessarily pursue their own happiness.
So and again, well, you know better than them. That is once again leads to happiness. Happiness is just one more gulag away, comrade.
I'm not
What's it?
I'm
Work
not
this
going to
time.
be the one to say, X you should do X to become more happy. I'm simply saying there people not necessarily are the best judges of their own pursuit of their own
Yes,
happiness.
but Englander, the elites aren't either.
Yeah, unfortunately, you
Like,
have to allow people to make mistakes. You can't
yes, what's
to quote a great man. You can't take away people's rights to be assholes.
yeah,
You can't
and
if
yeah,
you try to force round pegs into square holes, the only thing that you will do is chip the wood.
uh, to elevate the conversation perhaps slightly. Sorry, Wes, if that's a bit dismissive. But very much in the same spirit of what you were saying is I believe that C.S. Lewis had a good old quote of, yeah, perhaps the majority of people are fit to be slaves, but I can't think of a single person who is fit to be king.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Democracy is the worst idea we've ever had, but it's the best one that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, democracy is a horrible idea, but it's the best one we've had so far. And yes, I do
Yeah.
not believe that democracy like pure democracy is a good thing. That's why I like the concept of a republic. Now, to answer a question that you had a while ago, should everyone? I think the thing that you're asking is should everyone have the right to vote? And that all depends on what type of system you have. I honestly right now believe that no, not everyone should have to undergo what is commonly known as suffrage. They should not have to all suffer it because it is a burden. The ability to vote and to influence the
Yeah.
political body around you is a burden, and not everyone should have to bear it.
Yeah. Taxpayers basically are the only ones.
No, not even that.
No, not even.
No, you should have to volunteer to you should be if you want to be a part of the governmental system, you need to
Mm.
show that you are willing to give up your life potentially in order
Service guarantee citizenship. The classic. The classic.
Heinleinian socioeconomics, just like I said in the beginning. And
Yeah.
remember, the basis of Heinleinian socioeconomics is not just military. It is any form of service that is dangerous, that is daunting, and that proves to other citizens that you are willing to enter in amongst their ranks.
Mhm.
because in the proverbial book Starship Troopers, which is a political treatise made by Heinlein, everyone from dog catchers to truck drivers to firefighters to, yes, the military, were all part of doing your part. That was the thing.
Great chain of being, to quote the academic agent.
I will assume you are correct.
Effectively, okay. Basically, with the great chain of being, it's basically just like old hierarchical idea of like you've got God at the top, and then you've got the leaders, and et cetera, all the way down, and basically just everyone has their place, and they're all contributing to the greater project of human prosperity.
Well, I would agree with that, except you are able to choose where you're at. Choice. Individual choice. That is the most important part about this. The ability to choose. Valuing, once again, valuing the freedom of the individual while at the same time maintaining vigilance against tyranny.
And of course, and that does make me think of a thing, and perhaps Englander will have something about it. Seems that we've both trampled him slightly. He's muted himself. Sorry, Englander. Basically, you've just brought to mind for me, it's like, I guess, it's like maybe where some people do get uncomfortable in the debate of liberalism, and perhaps where some people might take liberalism too far, is strikes me that some people forget that human will does have limits, within the physical universe. And like, just because a person tries really hard does not necessarily mean that they're going to succeed. But that's not to say that liberalism shouldn't allow people to try. Certainly we should, but it's like the ideal level of freedom is not that which allows everyone to do what they aspire to do, because that's impossible, because not everyone can succeed. It is a system which makes it possible for people to succeed, like to basically just to maximize their potential, because everyone has different, etc.
Sure. And if you guys would like to move on to one of the other topics, I would be more than happy.
Yes, this has been this has been quite a decent conversation on some deep political topics, but I think it's also been somewhat exhausting, and I think that we have trampled Englander somewhat unfairly. Englander, would you like to please come back?
I think the reason why he has muted himself is he is possibly away at the moment.
He might be on a bathroom break or something. I just hope he didn't hurt his feelings.
I mean, well, like I said, I have been talking with people quite a lot about this subject lately, and yeah,
you can get
I
inflamed about it. You can get passionate about it.
No, it's not that. It's just I have encountered counters to my I have encountered this argument several times before, which is why my arguments are so refined. That's the thing. I have been pushing back against this because I genuinely do believe that this ideology is this is going to lead to tyranny. This is going to be the next SJW collectivist thing. I believe that it sounds like a great idea. Oh yeah, monarchs, awesome. Yeah, no, that'd be great. And then it's going to lead to more and more fringe ideology and more craziness. And in the end, it's just gonna end the exact same way. It's good. Like it started out, social justice, as it were.
Okay, Englander is back. Yay, Englander.
Hello. Yes, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, social justice in the beginning was a wonderful idea, and I mean back in the 1800s when like Voltaire and those were trying to advocate for the downtrodden, for the poor, for those that couldn't talk for themselves. It was a very noble idea. It was very haughty and very French. And
the old noblesse oblige. It's French for a reason.
Yes. And yeah, like Teddy Roosevelt called himself a progressive. A lot of people who meant well had these ideals, and then here we are 120 years later, and it's just like, holy shit, that was a bad idea, go back. And here we are once again with here comes the new
Another new old
boss.
idea.
But yes,
Yeah, another for the umpteenth time. It's another new old idea.
and this neo-Hoppian movement is just yet another example of that.
And again, it's like I hope that I'm not too much of an too much of an utterly abstinent moderate, but or obstinate would be better. Forgive my Freudian slip there. I hope that I'm not too much of an utterly obstinate moderate, but it basically just strikes me that the system as such does not really matter, because it's just the people, it's like the system cannot change the people, and it doesn't matter if you have good people or bad people in charge of the system. At least it doesn't matter as much as people think it does, because what's it? Power being inherent in the people is not a construct of democracy. It's something which is self-evidently true, and effectively, I think that tyranny can only exist when people are complicit. Perhaps I'm just an ignorant fool, but
No, whether you
I
realize
think
it or not, you are
I think that
advocating.
there's something complicit. I think that the totalitarianism in China and North Korea, etc., can only exist because those populations are complicit. If everyone in North Korea gathered to burn down Kim Jong Un's house, there would be no there'd be no way that he could resist them.
The only problem is he keeps them starved and disarmed. And
exactly, and
you are correct. 50, 60 years ago, yes, absolutely. When the Korean War was going on, you are absolutely correct. They were brainwashed with collectivism. That is why one of the most important things we need to advocate against is rampant collectivism. A little bit of collectivism is fine. Obviously, no one system is absolute. You can't have total and complete unfettered individualism, because that leads to anarchy, which only leads to more dictatorships and totalitarianism, because anarchy leads to violence, and violence leads to dictatorship, which leads to
and again, I suppose, it's like, again, I don't want to parrot other people's talking points too much, but right about here is where I suspect Englander or Aiden or even the academic agent would make some point about the accountability is just when you have a monarch, or not even necessarily a monarch, but just someone with more authority than a democratically elected politician. Basically, the serpent has a head that you can cut off, whereas when you have a more decentralized democratic or republican system,
and
the monster has too many heads, and you can't.
Its power. Where does the power come from?
Exactly.
Well, and Aiden's
exactly,
answer, I can tell you what you want to know. What
as I said before myself, everything always boils down to the people.
You want to know what Aiden's answer is to that? Because we've had this conversation before. The answer, her answer is, well, the monarch is chosen by God, so therefore
and I do think that is something of a bad take out of her. Aiden, I don't want to attack you too much. I think that is somewhat self-evidently untrue throughout history.
Yes. The whole point of a monarch is that it is to a certain extent infallible. And the thing is,
that has certainly been the point of advocacy in Europe for most of history. Yeah. The point that I would make is it's a crapshoot no matter what you do. It's a crapshoot whoever's born into power. It's a crapshoot whoever's elected. Because the mental state essentially of the people, no matter what you do, it's always going to be a crapshoot. So you shouldn't focus on the system. You should just focus on morality and just having the morality be as widespread as possible. But then, of course, we get into the problem of how do you figure out which morality is best? And at that point, it kind of just collapses into nihilism, because how can you look at things objectively when you don't literally have God knocking on your door?
Well, then you're getting into the social mores of good versus evil, and the thing is
That's kind of the root of it.
yeah, it is. But and then the thing is, it's like, how do you know what's good versus evil? Well, it's because it's been taught to me socially. And yeah,
don't think
call
it's
me
all.
biased, but I believe that Western values are better than all other values because
Yeah,
Western
well,
values brought
I
about the
guess.
modern world.
Yeah, I guess if nothing else, it is natural selection. Um, yeah. And of course, I guess, it's like, we're seeing natural selection even to this day. It's like as the West is getting corrupt and stuff, it's collapsing.
I don't believe that the West is collapsing.
I
I
think
believe
that
it's
it is.
corrupt and it's going
Perhaps it's
that
not
it's
a
going
permanent
through several
collapse.
wars.
I'm not saying it's a permanent collapse. I'm not saying that Europe or America will be a third world country in 100 years, though I wouldn't rule out that possibility. Um, it is at least what temporarily, if not permanently, West is going to be a poorer country, let's say for the next few decades,
I don't
than
believe
it was in decades previous.
No, I don't believe that because again, once more, the power is in the hands of the people, and as we are seeing right now, the people are starting to push back, and you can call that utopian if you will, but there is a literal unironic workers revolt going on.
Yes. And of course, that
Canada
brings
right
us
now.
into Marxist tactics. Is
No,
it
no, not
appropriate?
Marxist tactics, because
Oh,
Marx
yeah,
is massively overblown, and there were people a lot smarter and a lot better versed than him who had similar ideas.
I know, but it's catchy.
Yes,
Basically, the point of this topic of conversation was basically just supposed to be: is it appropriate for the right wing to use a left wing framework for its own ends, or is that too cynical and nasty?
I don't believe in the concept of left and right. I believe in the concept of authoritarian versus libertarian, and collectivist versus individualist. The concept of left and right is an inherently French concept, and therefore it is cringe.
That's fair.
And more so, uh, there are also two more styles that one needs to factor in, which is um, oh God, the guy who wrote The Prince, El Principe. Um,
Machiavelli.
God damn it, Machiavelli. Thank you. There is the Machiavellian method of those within power maintaining power, and then there's the Alinskian method of those who do
Those
not
who are
have power
not in power
gaining
acquiring
power.
it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well, like
that
the funny thing, of course, about the prince is he says that it's possible for someone without power to get it, but he doesn't go into the details. Just like this is a thing that happens sometimes.
yes,
A great
and
man or something of the like.
Yeah, he treated it very mysteriously, which is
yeah,
typical of
well,
the time period, I suppose.
there is quite a lot lost, including the name in the English translation of the prince. It's actually the sovereign. The closest word in English to Italian is the sovereign, but that's another conversation. There is reading the prince in the original Italian is it brings a lot to it. But
Are you actually? Can you speak Italian?
I can read it a lot better than I can speak it. But yes,
That makes sense. The written Italian is probably more similar to English than spoken Italian.
well, it's more similar to Spanish, which I can't speak. Um, and also, I grew up in an Italian with Italian grandparents,
Are you
and
from
they
Alabama by any chance? Because there's a
Florida.
lot. I've noticed Florida. Oh, right. You said Florida before, right? Sorry. It's just that back in like the 50s, there was a big wave of Italian immigrants to Alabama. In the years after World War II to go work in the quarries and stuff.
Mm. Yeah, well,
I only know that because I live here. Alabama's not very important. I wouldn't know that if I didn't live here.
Italians tended to avoid the South until like the 70s and 80s when my parents when my family moved down. Mainly
Yeah.
because well, if you thought Southern Democrats hated black people, woo, they hated Italians because
They hated Catholics.
well, no, it was because they didn't like black people because they thought they were animals. They hated Italians because they thought they were half breeds. In fact, the worst lynching in American history was done to Italians.
Because they're brown.
No, because we're half black.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure that that's actually scientifically true, but
Half African.
I thought you were making
like,
a
genetically, it's what is now colloquially known as Middle Eastern or African Middle East or African Mediterranean. Like, it's complicated. I hate to go Tim Pool, but it is indeed
it's
complicated.
white Africa. No, in my opinion, it's basically just white Africa. Forgive me if I'm too much of a reductive American. You know,
it's a
as if you.
common talking point of Sargons that Italians are black people.
No, he doesn't say they're black people.
Sorry, they're
he
not
says
white.
they're not white.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we are not white.
He also says the Irish aren't white.
Well, no,
like, the thing is,
he is unironically correct. Italians have never considered themselves white, and I'm not only Italian. I'm Sicilian. We are definitely not
really
white.
are. Well, actually, no, you are a bit because the Normans conquered Sicily.
Yeah, but the Moors conquered Sicily for a lot longer, and was a lot
so
more.
You literally are half black.
Yeah, I mean, unironically, I do not consider myself white. I have pale skin, but I'm not white. I grew up in a half black, half Hispanic neighborhood that had a sprinkling of white trash. It was very ethnically diverse, as it were.
Yeah.
I can never understand these American perceptions of race. They just
You
fly
are
over
correct.
me.
Yeah,
Basically, Englander. If you want to know what Americans think about race, it's just get rid of all the physiological stuff and like the bones and the noses and hair and everything. Get rid of every category except skin color.
Yeah.
And then you have the stupid, dumb fuck American version of race science.
And Englander, I genuinely wish that as Americans could move on past the obsession about race. But unfortunately, you have leftist collectivists that are constantly harping on about it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's a pointless discussion for both sides. Waste of time.
Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, it is a conversation that I have to continually have, which is sad. I genuinely wish that people could just stop.
At certain sometimes, and again, not to be too authoritarian because I realize that's something that no one here really likes. But sometimes I wonder if Paraguay maybe had the right solution: just force everyone to mix until it's impossible for them to be racist.
Well,
because there's just no one distinguishable.
Once again, you were trying to solve a social problem.
I know. Again, it's just that's just a joke solution.
No, yeah, that's fine. But like again, it's trying to solve in general, trying to solve a legal a social problem with a legal solution. It ends horribly every time.
Okay, so this has been some not exactly wonderful, but very enlightening. No, I'm trying to think of the right word. Edifying. This has been a very edifying discussion so far, but I think we ought to move on to what we might call some fun stuff. The rank punditry, we might call it. Fine, animals. Let's just talk about American versus European animals because this is something that is just a bit fun. Is like, you ever notice how American animals almost always seem like just a slightly bigger, meaner version of the European thing? Like, look at the picture of the badger we got here. On the bottom is the American badger. Look at that rugged yellow monster.
Oh,
At the top, we have a European badger from Scotland. It just looks like a well-groomed little man in a gray tweed suit.
It's undergone some radioactive mutation. The American ones.
Yeah, or Englander. Can we please get like pictures with like American versus European brown bears? Perhaps can you pull that up?
I can.
Possums are another fun one.
Possums, yeah. Does Europe even have possums?
I have no idea. Let me have
Yep,
a look.
there are European possums, and they are infinitely cuter than the trash pandas that we have. We're not trash pandas, but than the trashy versions that we have here.
Yeah, I'm googling right now. I say googling. I'm on DuckDuckGo because I despise Google. Let's see, there's a Virginia possum. There's a bushtail. European opossum. Yeah.
I would dare say they're downright adorable. And then you have the angry, hissing, pissed off version that is the
It
American.
looks like a cat and a rat put together.
Yeah. Now you're talking to a guy who thinks snakes, spiders, and gators are adorable. So I think I love the American version of the possum. But I'm
Don't
very well
worry,
aware of the drug.
yeah.
Hello.
Also, I would also argue that Americans have one over on Europeans because we have the
Wait
manatee.
a minute. Wes, how did you get so loud all of a sudden?
Am I not? Was I not this loud all the time?
No.
It might be
Oh.
to do with me losing connection for a second. I don't know if that's anything to do with it.
Apologies. I did shift positions. One of the things that I should let you know is I am bedridden, recovering from a major surgery that I've had a couple months ago.
That explains why you took the nap earlier.
Yes, I do need to recover, and unfortunately, the recovery time is insanely long. But
What was the
it's
operation?
they had to cut my ribs open and put titanium plates. They had to cut my chest
Dear.
open and put titanium plates on my ribs.
Did you get kicked by a mule or something? What the heck happened?
No, I got into a car accident with an SUV, and I was in an ATV,
Oh.
and the ATV landed on me, and I rolled a few times.
Oof.
Broke a bunch of bones, shattered ribs, all that good stuff, and
That is
broke my sternum, and I was stubborn, and I didn't let it heal right, so they had to crack me open.
Ouch.
that is pretty wacky. Yeah, the most severe surgery I ever got was I had to have a tumor removed from my back once when I was a kid. I've got a giant purple scar on my
Oof.
left shoulder. I've got a giant purple scar on my left shoulder blade. Because my body rejected the stitches, so I had to go back to the same hospital every day for about 2 months after the surgery. As a commute, like before school and then after school to get the bandages replaced because, because they just rejected the stitches and we just didn't have the bandages at home and they needed to analyze it and clean it out specially.
Oh yeah.
And I had to sleep on like a sterilized towel.
No.
As well because I'd take a shower before bed and the bandage would come off and we didn't have the right kind of soap or anything to clean the wound at home, so I would literally just sleep on like a sanitized white towel, and in the morning there'd be like green pus on it.
Fun. Yeah.
Wacky stuff.
Yeah, I when I was a kid, I went through. I had to have my the cartilage in my nose realigned. which basically meant they had to break it in 3 places and put stents up my nose.
Oh,
And
that is crazy. Englander, did you ever have any childhood surgeries?
You no. You're kind of making me yeah, you sound like you've had it much worse than me, unfortunately.
I
oh,
only had the one, and
well, one of the things you got to know about me is I got into martial arts when I was a kid, and that just banged me up something fierce. It taught
Yeah.
me a lot of discipline. It taught me discipline, and it taught me mental sharpness, meditation, things like that, which attributes to a lot of things that I value very very highly, and admittedly take for granted in my life. Uh, and it also taught me that the best way to win a fight is to avoid it, which is admittedly something that I do not always adhere to, because God, there's part of me that just loves a good scrap, both verbally, metaphorically, and physically sometimes.
that has been evident during this stream. Yes.
I mean, the
I
most.
I apologize, by the way, if I come on too strong. But again, you have to understand, I value debate. I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and I might be wrong. Y'all, like, there may come a day where I'm like, oh yeah, maybe monarchy is the right idea. Maybe that is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
It,
I think, and the thing is, I don't even want you to be wrong, because basically, what's it? Basically, here is like, I think that is like where we get into contention or whatever, is basically, it's just like, there's sort of an internal battle within me between basically, my ego and my desire for the well-being of the world in general. Because my
mm,
ego wants me to be right, but you know, my desire for the well-being of the world in general is like, well, if I'm right, that means that horrible things are going to happen. You know,
yeah,
so
and
it's
that's the thing. That's why we need to learn the lessons of history, and that is where some people are unfortunately sorely lacking. They believe that what's going on right now is unique and special, and it's not. It's
I
just
don't
a power
think it's
grab.
unique. I just
It's just another power grab,
yeah.
and it's a power grab that is in the process of failing, as we can very plainly see from the workers' revolts that are starting. And it's not just
Maybe.
in
It
Canada;
seems
it's
like it's
all
gonna
around the
fail.
world.
Hopefully, it's gonna fail. I hope it's gonna fail. But there's a part of me that is afraid. You know, maybe. Like there is a part of me. It's not exactly. It's not like my whole gut. It's not an overwhelming sentiment. But I don't think it's not inconceivable for me to think that maybe one day the Canada just sends the military out there and just massacres all those thousands of people and just
Mm,
becomes the Soviet Union overnight.
Well, the Canadian
I
I
military has
realize
already
that
said
I
sounds
that they're
wouldn't
not
say
getting
so.
absurd.
involved. Oh,
I
we
know.
all talked there at the same time.
I understand that sounds absurd. I hope it is, but it's not inconceivable. Would have
Well,
been
the Canadian
inconceivable.
military has already said that they are not getting involved. That Trudeau can go fuck himself, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
like it is not within the purview of the Canadian military, according to the Canadian military, to be involved in something like this. So there's your first little white pill there. Secondly, it is it that authority rests solely within, and this is just speaking about Canada. That power rests solely within the Ottawan uh, governor, for lack of a better term. They don't call them governors, but they're governors.
Ottawa was a city.
Yeah, well, no,
Be the mayor.
the whoever the provincial leader of whatever Ottawa is. I don't know Canadian politics. It's Canada. Who cares? It's pretend anyway. But
Yeah, it is. It is just the British United States, isn't it?
not even that. That'd be cool if it was. But the British United States is the United States. But that's another conversation.
Canada is just like a weird knockoff, and there's a part of me that thinks it shouldn't exist. Like we really should have just literally just driven all the monarchists to the ocean. There's a part. Well, not even at least, yeah, the loyalists or whatever they want to call themselves. You know, like there is a part of me that thinks that Canada shouldn't exist.
Well, I have a lot of friends who are Canadians, and there is a lot of nationalistic pride, and it is starting to
I
show
don't
now.
really. I admire Jordan Peterson, and that's basically as far as my love of Canada goes. I admire Jordan Peterson, well, and Black Pigeon Speaks, Felix Rex.
Is he Canadian?
Yes, he is.
Well, no
They're
one's
the only,
perfect, I suppose.
they're the only two Canadians that I really have any respect for, and aside from that, I want to burn the whole country down to the ground because all the rest of them seem like passive aggressive assholes.
A lot of them are, but there's a lot of.
I guess Dev is nice too, but even Dev is a little bit passive aggressive sometimes.
Oh, I love Dev. I can't say any, I've known Dev for years. I can't say anything mean about Dev.
I'm aware that Scrump Monkey was the villain of their little drama that they had together, but I do feel like Dev maybe reacted slightly poorly.
That is a drama that I because I know both of them and because I consider them both friends. It's like it's like being the kids in a divorce. It's a mess
Yeah,
and it's
I kind
unfortunate.
of I kind of feel like both of them are being gamer words, and they just want to kiss and make up.
That's unfortunately that's not going to happen. But it's there's a lot of things behind the scenes there and it is all unfortunate. And it's a shame. It really is because that combo there was that was a force of nature right there, and it's unfortunate that is no longer a thing. But I still talk to Deb. Whoa, you okay there, Lobster?
Oh, sorry. No, did I touch the mic and then? Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah,
Um,
I just touched the mic. That was all.
yeah. I know I'm friends with Dev and I'm friends with Scrum and I'm friends and there are lots of mutual friends there and a lot of them have chosen sides and stuff like that. I'm like I'm not I ain't doing that. I don't play those games. I like both of you like me. If any of you have a problem with me, you could talk to me about it, but I ain't taking those sides and it's worked out well so far.
Yeah.
Filthy fence sitter.
When it comes to my friends, you're goddamn right I am.
Yeah.
Because I choose my friends very carefully.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. Like I was just thinking, it's like here's another comparison. Englander. I will I'll find a picture and then put it in the in general so that you can get it.
Okay,
Is
yeah.
just regarding what we were talking about earlier with like American versus British animals, Atlantic versus Pacific walruses. Pacific walruses are way cooler looking.
Let's have a look then. Show me the pictures.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Um, but and again, this is certainly partially. This is just 'cause I used to live in Alaska, so I
Oh,
feel a little bit of yeah. So there is a part of me that does just want to sort of just be braggadocious or whatever over my state having the best walruses.
I've said it before and I will say it again. Nothing beats a good manatee.
Manatee are just useless. It's like they can't even
Hey,
get on land, and they don't have big scary teeth.
you're right. They have absolutely no natural predators because everyone loves them so much.
I'm pretty sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure there's a whale or something
Nope.
that eats them.
They have absolutely no natural predators. The only thing that kills manatees are men, mankind. They like there are some wonderful videos of gators interacting with manatees and like the gator will start stalking the manatee and swim up to it and then it will realize the sheer size of the manatee and then
Leave
just
it
kind of stop
alone.
and then just kind of go away. And then there's even better videos and footage of juvenile manatees just going right up to gators and just like playing with its tail and the gators just kind of moves away, and then the baby manatee goes up and keeps playing with the gator's tail.
They just harass him.
Yeah, and the gator just goes, ugh, no, go away. It is very endearing. They are my favorite creature on this planet because they're so innocent and they're so beautiful, and and we need to cherish animals like that. We really do, and you know
Okay, so
I
I can't quite
I'm a,
find it on DuckDuckGo, so I'm gonna look for the walrus comparison on Google.
I have just seen a picture of both of them, and I don't see how you could say the Pacific walrus is better or superior to the
'Cause
Atlantic
it's
one.
bigger and fatter and oranger. That's how.
oh man.
Atlantic walruses are skinny and yellow and short.
I've just seen a picture of them. How can you? How I don't understand. It's true. They're a far superior animal. I may be European, but I am siding with the. I'm siding with them there purely for objective reasons.
No, hold on. Let me get this picture. Feel free to put it on the screen, by the way. I'm not sure that you've got the right comparison. We need the audience to see what the hell we're talking
Oh,
about.
I'll pull up a picture later.
Oh, you'll edit it in
Yeah.
later, but I don't. For Wes' benefit at least.
Oh,
You know, I
I'm
guess
looking at it.
yeah, and I guess that he can see general anyway. Let me go into general. Did you post it in general?
Okay, so that's the text channel that I should be looking at. All right.
Yeah, we use general for everything. We probably should set up like a you know, like chat in Cabal. We probably should set up something, but
When it comes to walruses, I do I like the Arctic walruses, you know, with the big
they all are. They're nomadic. They're
yeah.
migratory.
But I do gotta admit the Atlantic walruses, they got big toofuses, and they're big and they're sloppy and they're and
Yeah, now hold on. Let me get the picture that I was thinking of. It's a save image.
Those are some lovely teeth on the Arctic walrus. Changed my mind. They're at the top of the
They're
chain
all
there.
Arctic. They all move between the Arctic and the equator, depending on what time of year it is.
yeah. Although
Yeah,
I guess
well,
both of them have the big tusks.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I personally, man, it's they're both adorable. That's my thing, you know, like it, and and I just yeah, I can't decide.
Yeah,
Although
no.
I do like the orangey shade of the Atlantic
It's not Atlantic. The orange one is Pacific.
or Pacific. My mistake.
So Englander, look in general, and
Mm. On the other hand, the Pacific walrus does have a more bulky look to it, and that's pretty Chad right there.
he's bigger and oranger, and he's taller too. He's got longer tusks. And
Yeah.
look at the Atlantic. The Atlantic walrus has got these dinky, straight tusks. You know, whereas the Pacific walrus has a freaking sled for a face, which is literally what they use those for, by the way.
There you go. The-
It's the way that a walrus hunts is they go down to the bottom and they slide around on those long tusks like a sled, and they just sniff for clams. I say they sniff. They don't actually smell, you know, because their nostrils are sealed underwater. They use those long whiskers to feel for clams under the mud.
yeah, those are they're both adorable to me, but I gotta say that that the orangey boys do seal it a bit for me.
Drum
The
of the sea.
the Chad the Chad orange boys with their curved tusks.
Yeah, so
Uh,
seeing a direct comparison, I'm slightly changing my mind here.
yeah, and also apparently they face palm, which is I don't know if the Pacific ones do that as well, but I did share a picture of 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 a Pacific
Yes,
walrus just
Yeah.
going.
the good old Jean-Luc Picard.
Although growing up in Florida, I did get a chance to see both plenty of times at SeaWorld and Busch Gardens and places like
SeaWorld.
that. And Busch
Did
Gardens as
SeaWorld
well.
get rid of all the animals, or was it just the whales?
I don't believe they got rid of any animals. Animals when they get too old.
I thought they had to get rid of the whales
There was
because of
a big
rights abuses or
controversy,
something.
wasn't there, about how the killer whales
No,
are
no,
Okay.
they have their orcas still.
Okay, well, is it just that they don't make them do shows anymore the way they used to?
I don't even think that's the case. I've known more than a couple of trainers of the orcas, and trust me, those orcas are better kept and live a much better life than you or I do.
I'm sure that's true, but I mean, we kind of in the well. I'm not in the wage cage yet, luckily, but it's like I'm gonna be getting a. Well, oh crap! No, that's the thing I forgot to do today. Crap! I was supposed to send in an application to Chick-fil-A.
There you go.
Yeah, my
Excuse.
brother though, my younger brother works at McDonald's,
Ooh.
so he is completely or not McDonald's, Walmart.
Oh God,
Yeah,
get
so
him out of that as
Yeah.
soon as
he's
possible.
completely demoralized.
Yeah, see that's the thing, man. You gotta
And it's
like.
almost stereotypical because he's a communist too. The only way it could be more funny is if
Oh
he worked at Starbucks.
no, then let him suffer. Then no offense to your brother, of course, but if you're fool to be a communist, you're foolish enough to work at Walmart.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I see it as him as a victim of mass and scale. There, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, how is that? How is that coming along, Englander? The old essay
Ah, yeah,
on positive visions.
I've managed to do a bit more, but it's getting there. I'll probably be done
Yeah.
by about 2 weeks.
Yeah. In that case, do you want to make it maybe a spring solstice? Not solstice. Well, would it be so? No. Hmm. Do you want to maybe do the video on it in March instead of April then?
Yeah, I'll be done by then, definitely.
Yeah. If you are, of course. Again, still, I think that it would be somewhat nice for an Easter special.
Yeah, I mean, it could end up like AA's Foundation of Politics, where he just delays it about his his original plan date was like last year, and he's still delaying it.
Yes, and again, Wes, just getting into a bit of inside baseball here. So, how long have we been filming? A little bit more than an hour, Englander?
An hour and 40 minutes.
All right, that I think we had a nice, productive, or at the very least, what was the word that I used before?
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for is enlightening.
You used edifying.
I
That
don't
was
know
it.
that it was all. I don't know
Edifying.
edifying. Yes, because I don't know. Yeah, edifying I think is the right word. Because if it was enlightening, I think that someone would have changed their opinion at some point. I'm not sure that anyone here did, but at the very least, we understand the way that other people think, and that's always a good thing.
Yes. Well, I would like to. I mean, if we're going to slowly wrap up, I don't know. I mean, in
Yeah.
about
So
10 minutes or
no,
so.
not even slowly. I think we've talked about a lot. We've been here for a while. Um, Wes, it's been great having you
Hold
on.
on. I have
You
one.
know,
I need one
yes?
question to finally finish the other topic we were planning. Wes, when do you think
Continue.
it's all went wrong? What was what What's the date you would say?
What do you mean?
When do you think things went bad?
What do you mean by bad?
You know, communist
Well,
infiltration.
like,
When's Yuri Bezmenov's
Oh,
yeah.
oh, jeez. Well,
If it helps, I have a set of dates that I had, which in the furthest back one was 10,000 BC with the agricultural revolution.
oh boy.
Bronze Age pervert. Yeah.
The Industrial Revolution was a mistake sent from an iPhone.
Oh, we can have that conversation another time, I think.
There's always a part of me that has some sympathy for that. It's.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you think the Industrial Revolution was a mistake, you are more than welcome to not indulge in it.
But obviously
That that means
slightly
when you
contradicting
get
that right
sick,
now.
when you get sick, don't go to a hospital. Don't go out and forage for
But no,
some.
but again,
for some-
of course, is like, no, hold on. How often would people get sick if they weren't eating like crappy mass-produced food?
Every bit as often as they do now. Don't kid
Maybe.
yourself for a second. People got sick. Yeah, okay.
I know that
Explain the
people
Black
got sick in the
Plague.
past.
Explain the Black Plague.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Don't be that naive. Yes, don't get me wrong. The like quote unquote mass produced food, which isn't necessarily bad. It's high fructose corn syrup and things like that you can
Yeah.
avoid very easily. That is one of the big problems.
I
But
know. I'm not blaming like mass-produced beef or mass-produced lettuce or anything. It's the processed goods, you know. And it's like, yeah, you can avoid eating it, but I
yeah,
guess that's just. I guess that I guess that's literally the thing. Then is we just need to make more of an effort to to tell people not to eat that sort of thing, just to enlighten them, I suppose.
and even like because like the one of the highest points of hubris is a well-fed person telling someone whose next meal is not guaranteed that they're eating the wrong food. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, go a few days without a meal and then get back to me.
Well, it's funny you
Uh,
say that because I actually have been fasting, like not for a particularly long amount of time, but like just for some spiritual trouble that I've been having lately. I have been fasting breakfast. I've been fasting off just
I would advise you watch the video in the
breakfast and lunch
Christianity
for the past 2 days.
lobster.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with periodic fasting. I mean, if that's your bag, go right ahead. I'm
I
not
mean,
going to tell you.
if nothing else, if nothing else, well, one thing that I found actually is like maybe it's just because it's not been particularly long yet, but it's like at this point, just having skipped 2 meals. At this point, it's just my lack of desire for food is the thing that is surprising me at this point. It's like, oh wow, I was not eating so much because I was hungry before. I was eating more so just because I wanted to.
Well, there's some complications there, but yes, pretty much.
Please check out that Lambda video, lobster. It talks about that as well. It's very interesting.
Well, it was made by Orthodox or something.
No, they talk.
What would it be? Or the with asceticism.
Yes, yeah. Talking
Yeah.
about the value of it.
I don't want to go on too much of a tismic rant, but well, and I guess asceticism does not necessitate like being a monk or whatever, but from my particular religious perspective, it's I do tend to look at certain aspects, at least, of asceticism with a small amount of skepticism, because I feel like, well, just to take the particular example of like monks or like Catholic priests or whatever, it's like I don't think it's proper for anyone not to be married.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that I think that not to was it the Apostle Paul who said that he wished everyone could go without marriage the way that he did, or was that, or am I confusing him with Peter?
well, I mean, in the video, it was saying how there's a time and a place for it. So that
Yeah.
it's not necessarily
Um,
disagreeing with that.
yeah, it's just I think that I think it was the Apostle Paul because he said lots of other crazy stuff too.
Yeah, I'm not
I
too sure
think that
myself.
sometimes it's like I am not such a radical Christian that I think everything in the Bible is perfect. I think sometimes people in the Bible talk shit the same way that anyone else does. It's written by
Um, I personally think that the Bible should be taken seriously, but not literally.
yes, the Bible should be taken seriously. That is a
Yeah.
better way of putting it. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but it's like like for all that the Bible is like divine and godly and stuff, it was still written by human people, and they're still gonna talk shit sometimes, and they're still gonna make the odd mistake here and there. But of course, the question there is, well, then like who are we? Like, do we have the authority to correct that? And very obviously, the answer is no. At least most of the time, perhaps no all the time.
Well, okay, then if you want to go down that road, which version of the Bible are you talking about? You talk about the Gutenbergian, you talk about the King
Yeah.
James, you
Yeah,
talk about the
exactly, and
like.
that gets it. That's a spastic discussion of its own.
Well, no, the thing is if you believe that the Bible is infallible, then you need to have that discussion. You
Yeah,
absolutely need to have that discussion because there are some very stark differences between those different versions.
yeah. As I said before, is I'm LDS, Mormon, and so we have all of our various other scriptures, but we do still also use the Bible quite a lot, and I'm pretty sure that we don't even have our own version the way that some sects do. I'm pretty sure that we just use the ordinary King James version.
Well, you guys, I've known quite a few Mormon folks, and I've read the Mormon.
Of the mainstream sect or of others.
I'm willing to bet it was the mainstream.
Okay,
I don't
because
know exactly which.
you do get some people like the what's it was it like the revived or the rejuvenated or whatever. That was
I'm not
pretty big.
sure.
Yeah.
But
I
the
think it was
thing
the
is,
Reformed. Yeah.
I have always considered the Mormon side of it an expansion pack, DLC, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much what the Mormon side of it is, and
Yeah, no,
uh,
that's actually an accurate way of describing it, even from our perspective. Is like, yes, the Bible is good, but it needs more,
yep.
more. What were the Native Americans doing? Where did they come from? They're all Jews.
Oh Jesus.
I
uh,
mean that's a comedic way of putting it, but that is kind of what we believe.
yep. And hey, I mean, I would rather them Jews than cannibalistic savages that sacrifice innocent people on altars. So, you know.
Yeah.
But I have a very biased view for Native Americans. I
Well, you're
That is
from
a
the
whole
South, so
other conversation that we
from
could
the
have.
South, so I'd actually assume that you'd have, get because the particular tribes that came from like near the Florida area, it's like the Seminoles and the Cherokee and the Creek.
Yeah.
These were relatively civilized tribes, many of which, I would think the bias in favor of them, not against them.
No, I am 100% against them.
Uh,
I believe that not every culture is created equal, that some cultures are better than others, and that the
that's certainly
Western
a fair thing.
culture is the best. And that if you and
Yeah,
I believe that there is good and evil in this world. And I
yeah.
believe that if you teach your children to be cannibalistic savages and to kill anyone who isn't you, yeah, no.
Got there just desserts, I think it's fair to say. Maybe
Yeah.
not the Cherokees and the Seminoles in particular, because they're called the six civilized tribes for a reason. But like the
Yeah.
Aztecs and the Inca and the Maya got their just desserts. They got genocided relatively justly, I would say.
Yeah,
The thing is,
and
that's even
and
an overstatement. You know, most of the people of Mexico and Chile today can still trace back almost half their family tree to those ethnic groups.
well, Bolivia.
Yeah,
Bolivia is almost 100%. Like there is
ridiculous.
hardly any European ancestry in like the majority of Bolivians. But that's because
Yeah.
it's a hellish mountain range,
And
and
it's also
and it was
because they converted to Catholicism and there was no reason to colonize them.
yeah, well that too.
It's like they're all
But
Catholic, no point killing them.
yeah. But yeah, that is a potentially another interesting conversation for another time because I have some spicy takes on
Yeah,
that
I,
and
I have my own fair share of spicy takes. My spicy take is basically that that's it. For all the sins of the Spanish, you know, which are numerous. I'm not Latino. I'm not
m-
going to
m-
defend them too much, but
mainly being Spanish.
yeah, for all the sins of the Spanish, they were better than the fucking cannibalistic human sacrificing dictatorship of the of the bloody of
Theocracy.
the freaking theocracy too of the Aztec and Mayan empires.
The lesser
Yeah.
of two
No,
evils.
Or and again, just as bad, the friggin' communist cocaine fueled theocracy of the Inca.
Mhm. So here's my if we're gonna dip our toe down this road, one of the things that I love is people talking shit on on the British and other European empires for going in and destroying these noble, beautiful civilizations, and oh, how could you support that? It's like, motherfucker, they were murdering each other for thousands of years.
Yeah, well, like I used to live in Alaska. Let me give you an example. Slavery was not abolished in Alaska until the 1870s because the indigenous people were still keeping slaves at that time. And also, or I think it might have been more like the 1880s, or no, it might have been in the 1900s actually, like 1910 or something. And the thing is, the reason why, like the federal government didn't get up off its ass because oh slavery bad. It was because the slaves were being human sacrificed as well.
Yeah.
No, it's like
And that's and the thing is, it's like why do you feel bad about the people that came in and stopped the endless murder?
because there was child rape sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah,
Which is a fair criticism, but again,
true, but the compare that to child sacrifice and murder. Like, yes,
yeah,
we are choosing between two evils, but I'm going to choose the evil that stopped the murder and sacrifice and
yes,
cannibalism.
yes, and also another thing that is good to point out is like it's like the worst crimes of the Spanish happened when things were lawless and new, and then all that stuff pretty much got stamped out as they actually built up a civilization.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like there were no like what's it like after all the indigenous people were converted to Catholicism. There were no more, like child slaves because, that would be a heresy in the Catholic Church. Not
And
supposed to
also,
be.
let's not forget the fact that it was England that wiped out slavery
Yeah,
in the overwhelming
literally
majority.
literally in the 1830s, they went on a global crusade to bribe everyone to stop keeping slaves.
Yep, pretty much.
And I believe they didn't stop until 2015.
Yeah.
Same,
Didn't
yeah.
succeed too much though because there are still lots of slaves in North Africa and Arabia.
And directly because of foolish interventionism by the United States, Libya now and Liberia.
Yeah, because we killed Gaddafi. And it
Hmm.
was because he was gonna, make a gold-backed currency, make a strong North African, like U.S. United States of Africa thing was his plan. And instead of being, like proper and what's the right phrase, diplomatic. Instead of trying to make inroads, we just assassinated him and ruined his project.
Pretty
I hope
much.
that Yeah, I hope that I don't sound too much like a Gaddafi simp, but we kind of
I
were
was,
unfair.
I was actually looking into Ghana, or
Huh?
is it Ghana? It's one of those African countries,
East
and
Coast, or yeah, no, West Coast, West Coast, yeah.
and it was this country that had been through, like, racial genocides and stuff like Rwanda. I think it was Rwanda.
Rwanda, yes.
Yeah, and like
Them in Uganda.
how good Uganda. Yeah, I think it's Uganda. How good that country's doing now,
Yes, it is,
because
because Rwanda's still poor, but Uganda's not.
yeah, because
That's different.
because the leadership that has been in power for the political party that's been in power now has basically stamped out racial division and has pushed everyone into education and industrialization,
Yes,
and
but
now
I gotta say,
they are
that is
they are a
true, but
borderline they are a second world borderline first world country in a
yeah,
sea of third world dictatorships.
yeah. Although if I forgive me if I sound like ignorant or whatever. If I remember correctly, though, aren't they still like a dictatorship? It's just that they've got sort of a Gaddafi thing going on where
So the
he is
thing is,
actually benevolent.
the interesting thing about that is, yes, they were a dictatorship up until about, I think it's 6 years ago, when
Okay.
the person who had been in charge for the last 10, 15 years, one of the reasons why he'd been in charge for so long is because no one, like, went against him.
Yeah.
And and then when he was like, all right, we are at a point now where elections can happen, and he voluntarily gave up his power, and
So
then
it was
everyone voted
literally
him in as
just like the
president.
George Washington, I don't want to govern you people anymore. My hair is turning white from the stress. Goodbye.
No, no, no. He wanted to continue his
He
aspirations.
just trusted them to vote correctly.
No, he left it up to the people. He was like,
Uh,
if you people want me to continue the road I'm going down, vote for me. Otherwise,
uh,
I will retire. And the people voted for him. And he is continuing. And oh man, the things that he did on COVID during COVID was great. Like, you should look into him sometime. It's an interesting topic. It's an interesting deep dive to go down.
uh, okay. Well, this has been quite a awesome conversation, but Englander, you and I are beginning to run out of time if we want to watch Squid Game afterward.
Well,
And
I think
Wes, feel free to stick around. But what episode were we on? 6 or 7?
yeah, about that. I think 7.
I'll check the
Yeah, we can
descriptions
find out.
after the
Anyway,
stream.
this isn't relevant to
Yeah.
the viewers. Let's wrap this up, shall we?
Unless they want to join us
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
weekly movie night on the Discord server.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just everyone talk about stuff. So me and Englander both basically are on all the same YouTube channels and Discord and Reddit. But Wes, before we leave, why don't you shill all of your everything?
Oh, well, if y'all are interested in me, I am in the process of writing some scripts for a breakdown of every Star Trek thing that has ever existed up until what I call New Trek, which is
That sounds awesome.
the JJ universe.
Yeah.
Um, it is going to be expressly non-modern day political. Um,
Uh,
I'm going to go out of my way to
well,
try
we're
my best
talking
not
about
to do it.
Star Trek, so there will be some politics in there, but
Oh yeah, of course.
they
But
won't be partisan
it won't be
in
modern identity politics. It won't be that.
yeah.
It will be based on
It'll
the
basically just be
views.
century utopianism because that's the people who wrote it.
It will be based on the views that every episode will be about the episode. That's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that
And
sounds all right.
yeah, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I grew up with Star Trek. I know an absurd amount of knowledge about Star Trek,
I've
and
watched.
I believe that the messages that come from Star Trek are being twisted and intentionally misinterpreted by those who hold the copyright right now. So instead of just ignoring it and just going back into my hole, I am going to be fighting back against it by simply extolling the virtues that I very much like that Star
That's a
Trek
nice
does.
thing, Wes. Yeah, that's nice. So what's you got YouTube channel and everything? Oh dear, my dog.
It's okay. If you're interested in that or anything else, you can if you are curious about me in any way, look me up. If you type in Wes Wyleven on your favorite social media, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, although I'm not very active on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube. I think I'm even on Facebook again. Um, I'm on everything, and also I'm very active on Discord. Um, I I'm around. Just
Okay.
yeah,
Englinger didn't. I forgot this earlier. Would you like to shill your what is it? The
I don't
thing
know. I don't
where
know what
you
it
like
is.
share your essays?
Oh no, I haven't actually uploaded any yet, so that will be
But no,
I
but I
mean,
mean, didn't you write 2 essays
I did
earlier that you
too.
published somewhere public?
Yeah. I mean, it's a Substack, but I mean, you can drop a link
Substack,
somewhere if
yes.
you
Would
want
you like
to,
to
but
shill your Substack?
yeah, sure, it exists, and I'll give you a link if you want to chuck it in the description. But yeah, if anyone wants to
All right.
check me out there, you can. I suppose nothing
All right.
amazing, but
Um, and of course, beautiful audience, all 91 of you are already here, so you know about my YouTube channel, and of course, I will never cease in shilling the Dawnshire Discord and the Dawnshire subreddit, uh, which don't just have to be specifically about the Dawnshire project. We do of course talk about other stuff on all those places. Feel free to just talk about whatever truck cast stuff you like.